Hello. Welcome back to What's That All About? Well, DB Cooper. Sounds like an idiot to me, actually. And his name wasn't really DB Cooper. That was an accident that happened. He gave the name of Dan Cooper, which could really tie into something else later. But let's just give you the stats. On Thanksgiving Eve, November 24th, 1971, a Northwest Orient Airline Flight 305, a Boeing 727, was with 37 passengers on board. That's probably important to know. Maybe not. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. On a flight from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington, the hijacker told the flight attendant he had a bomb. He so much as showed it to her. She said it looked like sticks of dynamite, right? Whether it was a real bomb or not, honestly, I'm not really thinking it was good, because I know when the FBI finally got the bomb and they were looking at it and everything, there was no danger of it going off. So maybe he had some sort of control he took with him or something. I don't know. Or maybe he just didn't ever plan to detonate, just used it as a scare tactic. I don't know. Anyway, he had a note and he handed it to the flight attendant, and he was asking for $200,000 in ransom and 4 parachutes. Okay. And in Seattle, he said he would release the passengers, which when they landed, they did. And he instructed the crew to refuel and also to create a flight plan for Mexico City with a refuel in Reno, Nevada. Okay? Now, 30 minutes after takeoff from Seattle, he instructs the flight attendant, who started to annoy him. She was asking too many questions. They had smoked. She had initially quit smoking or something, but he was smoking these cigarettes, and she joined in with him just to keep him talking. But she must have asked him something that irritated him, because he sent her up to the cockpit and said, lock yourself in there. Now, he had asked her initially to put down the plane's aft door, open that, which has the staircase coming down, and she was too afraid. She was too afraid to get sucked out of the plane, which, you friggin' A. I mean, my God. I'm sorry, but even in 1971, you've probably seen movies where people get sucked out of planes, all set. So anyway, she goes and does what he tells her, and the hijacker then opened himself the aft door and deployed the staircase and parachuted into the night. Okay, now he parachuted in southwestern Washington, so the flight had not been. Doesn't sound like he ever intended to going to Mexico City. He just wanted them to be going in this general direction of Reno, to be honest with you. And but he had identified himself as Dan Cooper. Okay, but his name was mixed up early in the investigation with a suspect, and he became known as DB Cooper. So, doy. In 1980, a small portion of the ransom money was found along the banks of the Columbia River, and this discovery renewed public interest. Now, this had already become, actually, I think it's bigger now, or in the last decade, than it ever was back then. But it was still pretty hot, hot news back then. But no more money was found. So there's been people who have gone and scoured the shorelines of the Columbia River. I mean, endlessly. Even, I know I've mentioned Josh Gates before, but he does those expedition shows, and he's so funny. But I mean, he's gone and he's looked, and a bunch of people have gone and looked. But for 45 years, the FBI maintained an active investigation, but it remains to this day, okay, the only unsolved case of air piracy in the history of commercial aviation. That's kind of a big deal. They still haven't figured it. Anyway, FBI speculates that Cooper didn't survive. So they don't think he could have survived the jump for several reasons. First of all, the weather was freaking awful that night. It was windy, rainy. I mean, all of it. It was crap. Now, and where he didn't have it didn't seem like he had a lot of knowledge of where he was going to be landing if he was going to be diving out of the plane that early, because it was a really dense forest that he jumped into. What a dumbass. Like, what? I mean, I don't know why he would think that. I don't know. And he also didn't have proper skydiving equipment. He didn't even use one of his parachutes. I think I put a picture of it somewhere. And then, along with the disappearance of the remaining money, like, it just proves that it was never, either A, it was never spent, or B, the FBI just never found it. And Dan Cooper had a different plan all along. I don't know. Now, there was very few pieces of physical evidence that he left behind, and he had found, the FBI had a black clip-on necktie in seat 18E, which is where he was sitting, and attached to the tie was a circular mother of pearl clip, and you can see it in the picture. And then also, it was determined that that tie was sold exclusively at JCPenney, but had not, it had been discontinued in, 1968. So that's kind of interesting. And they also found a hair. But, remember, it's 1971, so it's not like they're throwing that in a database and getting some DNA hits or anything. So anyway, but they also found 8 filter-tipped Raleigh cigarette butts from the armchair ashtray, which I think I have a picture of one of them. How sad is it? I had a couple pictures for this one, so I kind of they all sort of started to jumble together a little bit. Now, in March of 2009, a group calling themselves the Cooper Research Team. Yeah, people got really into this. Now, these were all civilians, but they began reinvestigating this case. And they used technologies that were not around back in 1971. And the most significant thing they found, was an unalloyed titanium on his tie clip. Now, in the 1970s, the use of pure titanium was rare and would only be used in aircraft fabrication. Now, either those kinds of facilities or a chemical company. So, again, one of the Cooper team people speculated the titanium alloys are linked to Remcrew Titanium Incorporated. That's a company, obviously, a metals manufacturer and Boeing contractor. Now, it was speculated that, D.B. Cooper could have worked for this company or Boeing even, and had some sort of a financial grudge against one or both of these companies for whatever reason. So could have been an ex-employee. I mean, there's theories going rampant, but I sort of lean towards that, thinking that that could be a pretty legitimate reason. But anyway, that money that was recovered along the Columbia River was found by an 8-year-old named Brian Ingram while he was on vacation with his family. And in total, 3 packets of ransom cash were found that totaled about $5,800. And as you can see, the bills were disintegrated pretty significantly due to the elements. But they were still bundled with the rubber bands. I mean, I was pretty impressed. Those are pretty good rubber bands. Now, at this point, the statute of limitations is coming on. So the list of suspects was particularly lengthy, as you can imagine. And I picked out a few. I only picked out 4. Now, there were quite literally oh my gosh, I think almost 15 of them. I think there were even people coming forward and just being like, yeah, I'm D.B. Cooper. Like, why would you want to be known for doing this failed attempt at something? But some people will do anything for attention. All right, first up here, we have Richard McCoy. Now, he was arrested for a similar hijacking in an airplane and escaped by parachute less than 5 months after the Cooper attempt, right? He got 45 years in jail for that. So, I mean, he looks, I guess, a little bit like him, sort of. I don't know. What do you think? He wasn't my favorite one, but he was, I mean, of the dozen plus that I was reading through, the ones that I picked are definitely probably the most feasible. Okay. This is Vince Peterson. He worked at a lab. That lab called Rem Crew Titanium in the 60s. Now, a former supervisor of Mr. Peterson does confirm the physical characteristics are really close, and he did have an issue with the company. I don't know, maybe. He's a big maybe for me. And then this guy's new, William J. Smith. He was actually added to the suspect list in as late as 2018. What the frick? Now, he actually, he had also a financial grudge against the government. So a little bit bigger picture for him. But along with that, he also had a interesting connection with the Cooper name. He had a high school friend that actually died in World War II. And records show that friend's name was Ira Dan Cooper. That's my favorite one, William J. Smith. That is who I think it was. I think he also resembles the sketch, don't you? A little bit, perhaps. Now, this last one was, actually, I like William J. Smith, but I think a lot of people like this guy. Rackstraw, Robert Rackstraw, great name. He was a pilot in Vietnam. And he was part of classified missions that have still remained classified to this day. I don't know. He was asked in TV interviews if he was Cooper. He never really gave straight answers. But over the decades, he actually did tell people. He was one of those he liked the attention sort of thing. But an author by the name of Thomas Colbert was convinced that Rackstraw was Cooper, and he tracked him down towards the end of his life, and he confronted him. He even had attorneys with him so that he could be guaranteed immunity if he did finally admit to being G.B. Cooper. And but Rackstraw did deny it, and he died in 2019. But Colbert sued the FBI on a FOIA request, which is Freedom of Information Act. And that led to the release of several documents, which led to the noted similarities between Rackstraw and Cooper, and the likelihood that they were the same man. That's why they think, because of what the FBI had to release. That's what they think. But I'll tell you what, it's funny. I have a link in my description because this couple, it looked like, were on a hiking trail of some kind, or they were going to this location. It looked like a waterfall, so I can't remember. I'll have to look at the link again. But and they found a little stone head that had D.B. Cooper's name on it, and it looked like a little tombstone. And that was in Idaho. That's where I am. So I'm going to try and find the location, and if I ever do, I will, record it and do whatever. But I thought that was kind of neat. That's why I put the link in my description so that you could check it out. But that's it. I don't know. D.B. Cooper, pretty cool, but not really his name. So get that straightened out first. But that's all I got for you today. Some, easy breezy. Just don't jump out of a plane. But until next time, I hope you are staying happy and healthy. Stay weird and take care. Bye.